Hanju had a fatal flaw since childhood. She never felt the slightest interest in men. Instead, she had an unusual obsession with anything soft and furry. But her parents' pressure to marry was relentless, forcing her to go on countless blind dates, each ending in failure. To figure out how to deal with men, she became a regular guest of Wan Shans, the most sought-after male host. After every failed date, she would pour her heart out to him. At this point, all she wanted was to find someone good enough, just to satisfy her family. Sometimes she wondered if something was wrong with her mentally. No matter how hard she tried, she just couldn't feel a spark with any man. One day she suddenly asked Wan Shans to hold out his hand, then pinched him hard. His face flushed as he asked in surprise. She seemed to enjoy the little gesture. It didn't hurt, but oddly left a faint sense of comfort. "If it makes you feel better, then go ahead," Wan Shans murmured. That night he carried the drunken woman to a hotel. But she clung tightly to him, refusing to let go. Helpless, Wan Shans had no choice but to slip away like a cicada shedding its shell. If he stayed any longer, he feared he might lose control. The next second, a pair of beastly horns sprouted from his head. The woman grew excited and began touching them all over. With a guttural roar, Wan Shans transformed into a werewolf. Yet instead of fear, she was utterly captivated by the fluffy sensation beneath her hands. His snow-white fur now carried a faint, embarrassed blush. Drunk and convinced it was only a dream, she pushed the werewolf down and bit into his wolf ears. She had always wanted to study such a creature up close. It looked almost edible, its sharp fangs nothing like those of a human. Her excitement only grew, and she pressed a kiss onto the tip of his wolf nose. But the werewolf stopped her, growling softly, "Kisses are only for someone you truly like. I don't deserve this." When she woke the next morning, she thought she must have lost her mind. How could anyone possibly turn into an animal? Yet the memory of that fluffy touch was far too real to dismiss. That night, the woman returned to the club once more, greeting him with a smile. "Long time no see, Mr. Fluffy." Wan Shans froze. She had clearly witnessed his monstrous form. How could she still dare to come back? Since birth, his body had been different from ordinary people. He couldn't even pass a medical exam, let alone attend school. As he grew older, he never managed to keep a stable job, until 3 months ago when he joined this club. But his strikingly handsome face often stole clients without him meaning to, which only earned him the resentment of his co-workers. It was during that time he met the little rich lady Hanju. Hearing her call him Mr. Fluffy, Wan Shans hurried to explain that what she saw last night had only been a dream. But Hanju insisted. They needed a private place to talk. "What I'm about to say isn't something others should overhear," she said. "I rushed here right after work because I was afraid you'd disappear." Wan Shans reassured her, saying he wouldn't vanish. After all, if he left, he would never find another job like this. "Mr. Wan, are you that short on money?" Hanju asked. "More or less," he replied with a faint smile. "I just want to save enough for an early retirement." Hearing this, Hanju immediately proposed a deal, pulling out a fake boyfriend contract. "Since you need money and I need a boyfriend to shut my family up, why not sign this contract? We both get what we want." Wan Shans frowned. "Why me? Aren't you afraid of the monster you saw me become?" Hanju thought for a moment before replying, "Probably because I like anything fluffy." She added seriously, "Don't worry, as long as you sign, I'll keep your secret forever. But if you transform again, you're not allowed to hide it from me." With that, she suddenly bit down hard on his arm. "If you refuse, then just take this as my last bit of indulgence. I won't bother you again. Pestering someone endlessly isn't my style." To her surprise, Wan Shans agreed without the slightest hesitation. After all, as the top host of the club, his hourly wage was already high. For him to accept so easily, perhaps he really was desperate for money. She glanced at his resume and noticed he was 2 years younger than her. Not much of a gap. "All you need to do is treat me like your girlfriend," she said, "and make me feel the atmosphere of falling in love." But Hanju had work during the day and was only free at night, which meant the two of them could only spend time together on weekends. Coincidentally, Wan Shans' transformations also happened on weekends. And when he changed, his form was less beast and more monster. Yet Hanju didn't mind at all. She smiled and said, "That's fine. I'm not exactly normal either. Honestly, I prefer monsters over humans. After all, the only thing I ever had a crush on growing up was a dog." Wan Shun only thought she was talking nonsense. After all, she had been drunk that night. Hanju suddenly lifted his chin, her voice teasing yet firm. If you really think I wasn't scared just because I was drunk, then transform right now, Mr. Wan. Let's see if I'm afraid. Wan Shun was about to explain that it wasn't the right time to transform, when his body suddenly went out of control. He had just changed the night before. Why was it happening again so soon? He hurriedly stood up to leave, and Hanju assumed he was trying to break their contract. She grabbed his arm tightly. Wait, we're not done talking. But Wan Shun shook her off sharply, muttering, we'll talk later. The next second, his legs swelled grotesquely before he collapsed onto the ground with a heavy thud. Hanju's eyes widened in shock. Beneath him, countless writhing tentacles began spreading out. Hanju was about to step closer when Wan Shun hurriedly stopped her. He didn't even understand why he had suddenly transformed again. And once in this monstrous form, he couldn't guarantee control over his own mind. With a loud crack, the tentacles surged wildly as if bewitched, snapping his belt into pieces. He quickly urged Hanju to leave, warning her this was an unprecedented form, one his body and consciousness couldn't yet handle. With too many limbs splitting apart, he had already lost control. But in the next instant, the tentacles coiled tightly around Hanju's ankle. Wan Shun fought desperately to pull them back, but strangely they showed no malice toward her. Instead, they seemed to revel in her touch. When she gave one a firm squeeze, Wan Shun jolted as though electrocuted, and the tentacles became even more obedient, following her lead. Moments later, she helped him onto the bed and asked seriously how long this form would last. Wan Shun replied in a low voice. Normally each transformation lasted a full day, but this one was uncertain. It could drag on longer. He suggested she go home and rest early. But Hanju refused. She declared this was the perfect chance to prove she wasn't afraid of monsters. Besides, couples should take care of each other. Otherwise, how could they ever build real intimacy? She turned to extend the room rental, only to realize the tentacles were still wrapped tightly around her. Hey, could you let go for a moment? Hanju asked helplessly. Wan Shun gave her an innocent look. Don't stare at me, I can't control them. Unable to break free, Hanju resorted to bargaining with the tentacles. If you let me go now, once I come back you can wrap around me all you want. Twist, curl, or cuddle, even head pats are fine. The tentacles paused as if thinking it over like little animals, then loosened their grip. Hanju's face lit up with delight. So you can communicate, just like puppies. Wan Shun, however, was mortified. Normally, it took ages to calm the tentacles down, but now they were obeying her instantly, and even shaped themselves into a giant heart toward her. Could they really understand her? He tried ordering them to stop, but they completely ignored him. After renewing the room, Hanju decided to stay in the same room with Wan Shun. After all, she had just promised those little guys, and she never went back on her word. Besides, the contract was crystal clear. Intimate behavior was strictly forbidden, with a massive financial penalty for breaking the rule. She trusted Mr. Wan wouldn't dare force her into anything. Hearing the sound of running water from the bathroom, the tentacles writhed wildly toward the door, and no matter how hard Wan Shun tried, he couldn't restrain them. After her bath, Hanju lay down on the bed and fell asleep almost instantly. It was unbelievable. Just moments ago she had been entangled by those restless tentacles. A faint smile tugged at Wan Shun's lips as memories from his childhood surfaced. 18 years ago he had once woken up to find Hanju lying on top of him. At the time, he thought she was just another test subject brought into the lab. But she had cheerfully claimed she was someone who climbed over the wall. That wall is so high. How did you manage to get over it? Wan Shun suddenly realized he must never let a human know he could speak. So he quickly barked twice like a dog, only for Hanju to reply calmly, "It's too late to start pretending to be a dog now." He hurriedly warned her to leave at once, that if the researchers caught her, it would be dangerous. But Hanju pointed out the sign outside clearly said Children's Welfare Home. Besides, she had run away from home and didn't want to go back. With that, she leaned closer, trying to nuzzle against his furry form, making him recoil in alarm. He warned her sternly, "Everyone locked up here is a monster, injected and drugged every day. I'm a monster too. If you stay, I might just eat you alive." Wan Shun knew he had to scare her away. Otherwise those aunts and uncles in the lab would cut him to pieces. But instead of fear, Hanju simply held out her tiny hand and gave him a high five. Just as he wondered what she was up to, The next second she flipped him over her shoulder, slamming him to the ground. Smiling proudly, she reached out her hand. "See? I'm strong. A monster could never eat me, so you don't need to worry about hurting me." In that moment, for the first time in his life as a mutant, Wan Shun felt he had a friend. Even if Hanju later lost those memories, he never forgot. She had never once feared him. Yet now he no longer had the right to stay by her side. The next morning, Hanju awoke to find herself unable to move, something slick pressing all around her under the blanket. Pulling it back, she realized it was Wan Shun's tentacles coiled tightly around her body. She grabbed at them, urging them to let go, complaining that they had even slipped inside her clothes and felt unbearably slimy, but the tentacles refused to budge. At that moment, Wan Shun stirred awake, blinking drowsily. Hanju looked troubled. Just yesterday the tentacles had obeyed her, but today they weren't being obedient at all. Wan Shun swallowed hard, every sensation coursing back through his nerves. The next instant, the tentacles constricted violently, binding Hanju hand and foot, pinning her against the headboard. After a whole night of synchronization, Wan Shun finally began to sense the movement of each tentacle. He pleaded with Hanju to give him a little more time. Normally, each mutation would gradually adapt to the body. It just required slowly linking his mind to them. So Wan Shun focused hard, trying to connect and control every sensation. But the tentacles were still part of his body. Every brush against Hanju's skin felt as if it were his own hands touching her. Hanju's cheeks burned as she struggled not to make a sound. Those tentacles had slipped into some very compromising places. Though they were only pretending to be lovers, occasional physical contact was inevitable. But this way was far too embarrassing. She couldn't even tear them away, afraid she might hurt Wan Shun if she pulled too hard. At last, only one stubborn tentacle remained, swaying mischievously in front of her face. The next instant, it darted forward and planted a loud kiss on her cheek, then quickly recoiled, almost shy. Hanju, deciding to play along, leaned forward and kissed it back, returning the gesture. Wan Shun's heartbeat spiked, his entire face flushing crimson. In a panic, he pulled the tentacles back, shifting once again into human form. Only then did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. Since his birth, Wan Shun had never once experienced such a sudden reversion. Whether it was an early transformation or an abrupt stop, it always seemed to be closely tied to Hanju, though neither of them could figure out why. The next day at work, Hanju couldn't help but feel giddy inside. There really was someone in this world who could transform. Suddenly, her happy thoughts were cut short when a colleague told her that her mother had come by to visit. She quickly pushed open the office door. "Mom, why didn't you say anything before coming?" Her mother answered calmly, "Inspections have to be sudden. Otherwise, how else would I catch a slacking Sue?" Hanju scratched her head awkwardly, muttering something about a friend's health problem. But in doing so, she accidentally revealed the faint marks left by the tentacles on her wrist. "What's this on your wrist?" her mother asked sharply, grabbing her hand and pulling up her sleeve. Hanju froze. Could those marks really have been left by Wan Shun's tentacles? Her mother's face darkened instantly. "Who did this? Who dares lay a hand on my daughter of the Han family?" Hanju panicked. Those marks clearly didn't look like they came from any human object. If her mother called a doctor to examine them, she'd be doomed. Forcing herself to stay calm, she blurted out, "I let it happen. I have a bit of an interest in things like bondage or whipping. I recently got a boyfriend and last night we tried it, just tying up, nothing else." Her mother froze on the spot. Was this really the daughter she knew? Hanju waved her hands frantically, trying to ease the awkwardness. "But after trying, I realized it really hurt. I found out I'm actually normal, so I stopped immediately." Her mother narrowed her eyes. "Is everything you said true?" Hanju nodded rapidly. "Of course. I'm perfectly normal, and I even have a boyfriend now. Mom, you don't need to push me into marriage anymore. If you don't believe me, I'll bring him home for you to meet soon." But her mother cut her off decisively. "No need to wait. Next week, the Lee family is hosting a banquet. Bring him there and let everyone see. I'll prove that my daughter of the Han family is no less than anyone. That old woman keeps bragging about her son's brilliance. Let's see if he can find a girlfriend this quickly." Hanju felt her head spin. Was parading a man around really the only way to prove she wasn't inferior? To convince Wan Shun to attend the banquet with her, Hanju offered to pay him triple his usual fee. Wan Shun replied that evening was fine, but it absolutely couldn't be at midnight. Hanju thought about it and realized he was right. Last time he had transformed into a wolf exactly at midnight on Thursday. Then Wan Shun added, "If you really want me to act as your boyfriend, shouldn't we at least have some kind of couple's nickname? After all, calling each other Miss Han and Mr. Wan didn't sound like lovers at all. Why don't we change that today? Details like this can easily erase suspicion from others." Hanju sighed, thinking he truly lived up to being a relationship expert. She teased, "Then I'll just call you Wan Shun or maybe simply boyfriend. You should give me a nice nickname too." Wan Shun thought for a moment, then said softly, "In that case, may I call you Xiaozhu?" Hanju smiled and nodded. Of course, it sounds natural enough. But as she looked at his face so close to hers, a hazy yet familiar memory suddenly surfaced in her mind. When she was little, she loved playing in the yard, because there had been an especially adorable dog there. Suddenly, Wan Shun's hands tightened unconsciously as he murmured, "Xiaozhu must have been very loved as a child." But why was it that she remembered only a dog? Or was that dog something special? Hanju admitted softly that when she was young, her family only valued her older brother and wanted to marry her off as a child bride. The little dog that wagged its tail and barked at her became the only proof of her existence, so she loved it dearly. Wan Shun finally understood. Hanju's memories had been altered. She didn't remember that as a young wolf he had actually spoken to her. To her, those memories were nothing more than the ordinary bond between a girl and her pet. For that reason, Wan Shun secretly wished she would never recover the truth. The next day, the two appeared at the Li family's banquet, looking every bit like an affectionate couple. Seeing such a handsome future son-in-law, Hanju's mother beamed with joy. It was also the first time Hanju saw Wan Shun smiling so naturally, and her heart skipped a beat. Flustered, she quickly pointed to her former blind date across the hall to change the subject. When Wan Shun learned he was her childhood friend, he recalled what Hanju had once said, that the boy had bullied her when they were young. He used to lead a gang of followers to spread nasty rumors, pull her hair and tear up her textbooks. Back then, little Wan Shun had felt nothing but sorrow. After all, he was born a monster, abandoned by his parents at the research institute. Hearing this, Hanju's curiosity spiked. "You have parents? Then, does that mean you're human?" Wan Shun explained that ever since a meteorite crashed to Earth, a very small number of mutated humans had appeared. Their bodies were unstable by nature, able to transform into any living, or even non-living form. Hanju's eyes lit up. "Then, can you show me your human form?" The next moment, young Wan Shun's wolfish face gradually faded away, morphing into the innocent features of a wide-eyed little boy. Hanju was stunned. "You're adorable. And that fluffy white hair. If only you had been my childhood sweetheart, how wonderful that would have been." Her words jolted Wan Shun back to reality. Tonight's task was clear: to convince her mother they were truly a couple. And that man was notoriously difficult. If he decided to make trouble, things could get messy. Hanju whispered, "If he comes at us, leave it to me." But she didn't realize the man's eyes were already fixed on them. The sight of her leaning close, whispering into Wan Shun's ear, made the man's brows knit tightly. He strode over with a glass of wine in hand, smiling thinly. "Long time no see, Miss Han. May I have the honor of a private chat?" Hanju quickly waved him off. "Our relationship is complicated, but it's better if we keep our distance." The man forced an awkward smile, then shifted his gaze to the man beside her. "And this gentleman with you, who might he be?" Before Hanju could even respond, Wan Shun stepped in front of her and said calmly, "Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is that Hanju hasn't had dinner yet, so we'll have to excuse ourselves." Hanju nearly cheered inside. So professional. To everyone else, this looked exactly like a jealous boyfriend stepping in. Even her mother's approving gaze showed she was pleased that it seemed this fake son-in-law had won her favor. Clearing her throat, Hanju linked her arm through Wan Shun's and smiled at the man. "We'll take a walk over there so we won't bother you." But the next second, the man suddenly stretched out his arm, only for Hanju to seize it firmly. "Does young Master Li have anything else to say?" she asked coldly. His expression darkened. "Hanju, you're still the same as when we were kids, stubborn and inflexible. That attitude of yours is anything but charming." He remembered all too well the day she had beaten him up as a child. Even after all these years, she had never once treated him with respect. Soon after, Wan Shun's composed behavior filled Hanju with pride, and even her mother looked satisfied. The Li heir hadn't stirred up any more trouble, so it seemed they would be able to leave soon. But they had to make it back before midnight. Otherwise, who knew what Wan Shun might turn into? Just then, a strikingly handsome woman walked over. She was Xiang Tiange, the heiress of the Xiang Corporation. The moment Hanju laid eyes on her, she lit up inside. What a gorgeous big sister. With a charming smile, Xiang Tiange asked Hanju to help her design a special ring, because she was planning to propose to her boyfriend. Hanju couldn't help but look at her with admiration. After all, it was rare for a woman to propose to a man. Xiang Tiange requested multiple rings, ranging in size from 1 mm to 5 cm, along with matching scaled-down men's versions. Hanju frowned in confusion. Why do you need so many? Don't tell me you have a bunch of boyfriends? But Xiang Tiange disliked being questioned. Since she didn't want to buy them herself, and everyone had their little secrets, Hanju simply agreed to help. Meanwhile, the man cornered Wan Shun, asking coldly, "What will it take for you to leave Hanju?" His tone wasn't like the clique stepmother in a drama trying to buy someone off. Instead, he reasoned, "You clearly need money. As a bartender, don't you dream of owning your own bar? If you walk away, Hanju can transfer one to you immediately." But Wan Shun stared at him icily. A single bar? How could that ever compare to the entire Han family? If I accepted, all I'd get is a bar. But if I stay with Miss Han, I'll be the future son-in-law of the Han family. So if you want me gone, you'll need to offer something worth more than the entire Han family. The man stumbled back under Wan Shun's sharp gaze. He hadn't expected this guy's ambition to be so overwhelming. Just then Hanju happened to return. The man immediately pulled a recorder from his pocket and sneered, "Did you hear that? This guy is only after your family's fortune." But Hanju acted as if she hadn't heard a word. She calmly linked arms with Wan Shun and walked away without saying anything. The man was dumbfounded. "Didn't you understand? He's just using you." Hanju stopped and turned, her face stern. "You're overstepping. Our family affairs are none of your concern." Later, as Wan Shun drove her home, he couldn't hold back. "Did you forget what I said? I admitted to scheming against the Han family, trying to climb higher through you." Hanju replied calmly, "Do you really believe that? To most young people, getting huge wealth so easily is their ultimate dream." But she could clearly sense Wan Shun wasn't interested in her family's fortune. Instead, she asked softly, "If I truly tried to buy your marriage with money, would you accept it?" Wan Shun froze. How could he not? To him, money was worth far more than feelings. After all, it was because the Han family had once paid money that he was sold off to the research institute as a child. Suddenly, Hanju realized that Wan Shun's transformation had come earlier than expected. Without hesitation, she stuffed him into a small box and sprinted home, so fast that even the security guard at the gate couldn't see what she was carrying. By the time she got back, she was panting heavily. Fortunately, the gated community rarely had visitors. She quickly pulled back the blanket to let him out, only to find he had turned into a giant, fluffy white bear, growling and unable to speak. Hanju rested her chin on her hand, teasing, "So this form can't talk, huh? Then what do I feed you? Raw meat? Plain and unseasoned?" The big white bear roared in protest, as if shouting, "Does that sound like human food to you?" Hanju burst out laughing. "Relax, I'm kidding. Just don't go peeing all over my house. We'll deal with the rest once you're back to normal." Looking around at the shelves filled with toy dogs, the bear's expression turned complicated. She really was obsessed with anything canine. Hanju quickly scolded, "And don't go chewing on my plushies. Also, tonight you're sleeping in the guest room." The guest room had a massive 2.5-meter bed, which should have been big enough for him. But the bear shook his head firmly, clearly protesting. Raising a paw, he seemed to suggest he might crush the bed. Hanju instantly understood and chuckled. "Oh, so now you're saying my arrangements are too thoughtful?" She added casually, "Fine. Tomorrow morning I'll order some sashimi or salmon for you. I'll book it now so it arrives early." With that, she picked up the phone to place the order. Meanwhile, Wan Shun could only sink into despair. He could eat regular human food perfectly fine. Staring at the massive 2.5-meter bed, Wan Shun let out a heavy sigh. There was no way he could sleep on it. He tried squeezing into the narrow gaps, but his body was simply too large. Once again, he realized he was only bringing trouble to Han Zhu. At this rate, he would end up hurting her sooner or later. Memories from childhood flooded back. In one of his frenzied fits, he had grabbed Hanju by the throat, striking and kicking her, while she stared back at him in utter confusion, unable to understand why he had snapped. Back then, Wan Shun believed that Hanju's closeness had an ulterior motive, but he refused to believe she simply liked him. After all, it was the Han family's funding that had supported the research institute, funding that led to him being injected with countless drugs. Without the Han family, he would never have endured such suffering. Hanju looked at the hysterical Wan Shun with pain in her eyes. "If killing me would make you feel better, would you do it?" she whispered. But Wan Shun had never truly wanted to harm her, that he didn't hate Hanju. If anything, he feared her hating him. Gently, Hanju cupped his beautiful face, her smile radiant. "Then how about this? Let me help you escape." Meanwhile, Hanju had a nightmare that I end her dream. She was falling endlessly into a dark abyss, her father's cold voice commanding her to obey. She jolted awake, heart pounding. Lately, she kept dreaming of being entangled by monsters, and even she felt something was wrong. As she stepped down, her foot landed on something soft and furry. Looking down, she saw the big white bear sprawled across her doorway, fast asleep, so deeply that even her stomping couldn't wake him. She sighed, stepping around him to get some water. But a strange thought nagged her. After all, Wan Shun couldn't speak in this form. Yet somehow she felt as though she could still talk to him, just like the talking puppy from her hazy childhood memories. Shaking her head, Hanju told herself she was overthinking it. She couldn't transfer her feelings for a dog onto Wan Shun. He had only agreed to be her fake boyfriend for money. There was no way he actually liked her. Still, that fluffy, soft presence haunted her mind. The more she thought about it, the harder it was to let go. Even if there were no real feelings between them, he was still a giant fluffy bear. And polar bears were so rare. Unable to resist, she flung herself onto him, rubbing against his fur. Wan Shun stiffened, keeping his eyes tightly shut. Better to pretend to be asleep. Eventually she'd tire herself out. But Hanju's curiosity was insatiable. Since Wan Shun had transformed into a bear, he probably wasn't wearing clothes, right? She suddenly found herself wondering, was he male or female? The big white bear froze, utterly stunned. Before he could even react, Hanju had already lifted one of his hind legs. "Wow, such a round butt," she exclaimed in delight, giving it a playful squeeze. The fluffy fur beneath her hand seemed to flush faintly red. "Is this woman a demon?" he thought. "Does she really see me as just an animal? This can't go on." With a swift motion, the bear flipped over, pinning her beneath him. Hanju, startled, thought Wan Shun had woken up. She whispered his name softly, only to see the bear still snoring soundly. She assumed he had merely rolled over in his sleep. The bear pressed her down firmly with his large paws, determined to keep her from making any more questionable moves. Surrounded by the warmth of his fur, Hanju grew drowsy. Within moments, she drifted off to sleep in his embrace, mumbling faintly, "I like you." Wan Shun's eyes snapped open, heart racing. "Say that again. What did you just mean by that?" But Hanju was already fast asleep, snoring softly like a little piglet, oblivious to her own words. The next instant, Wan Shun's body shifted back into human form. By now, he was almost used to these uncontrollable transformations. When he next opened his eyes, he found himself lying on the bed. The fake boyfriend had once again turned back into his human self, just as quickly as when he had changed into an octopus. Perhaps, whenever his transformation happened earlier than expected, its duration would also be shorter. Wan Shun personally cooked a whole salmon. Knowing the human body couldn't handle too much, he sensibly sliced off only a small portion. His voice was gentle. "What would you like for lunch? I can make something for you." Hanju's eyes sparkled with joy. Was he really this domestic? Was he actually about to make her a love bento? Wan Shun explained, "I'm free this morning. I'll bring it to your office once it's done. Fresh fish doesn't taste as good if it sits too long." Hanju lit up, her heart warming. "It's been so long since I had someone cooking at home. Wan Shun, you're amazing. I almost want to marry you right now." Her words instantly pulled Wan Shun back to his childhood. Back to the days when Hanju used to sneak him food. She would always urge him to slow down, saying no one would take it from him. But little Wan Shun had never eaten anything so delicious before, and he devoured not only his share but hers as well. In that memory, Hanju unwrapped a bundle filled with adorable snacks. even shaping one into a little gray puppy. No matter how hard she tried, it could never look quite as round and soft as Wan Shun himself. Still, the color really did resemble him. Wan Shun instantly understood. It was made especially for him. Hanju quickly waved it off. It probably doesn't taste good. Just forget it, don't eat it. But Wan Shun panicked, pouncing forward to snatch it protectively. Finally, my very own puppy-shaped treat. Worried the snack might taste terrible and that Wan Shun would dislike it, Hanju quickly bit into the gray puppy-shaped treat first. She thought smugly, now that it's touched her saliva, Wan Shun definitely wouldn't eat it. Sure enough, the snack was awful, burnt and bitter. Thankfully, he hadn't been the one to taste it. Their eyes met and for a moment time seemed to stop. Flustered, Hanju backed away. What are you trying to do? A boy who doesn't plan on marrying shouldn't kiss a girl. Otherwise, she won't be able to get married at all. Wan Shun tilted his head innocently. Then just marry me. Once we get out of here, I'll come for you. Hanju froze. Wan Shun, you'd really marry me instead of the person my father arranged? Then it's a promise. Warmth swelled in her chest, a fleeting glimpse of true happiness. Yet she didn't know then. This vow would one day be broken by Wan Shun himself. The next morning, Xiang Tiange came to Hanju, checking the design sketches for the ring, and asked if her boyfriend's name could be engraved inside. Suddenly, Xiang Tiange's phone rang. Hanju froze when she heard the ringtone. It was her boyfriend's voice. On the line, he said he was already downstairs. Xiang Tiange quickly hung up, saying she had to go meet him in person. Embarrassed, she explained, he installed couple tracking on my phone. Now he's literally waiting downstairs to check on me. She pleaded with Hanju, please, just pretend this is a girls' gathering for now, that I have to keep this a secret, because this ring is meant to be a surprise proposal for him. Hanju could hardly believe it. What kind of bizarre boyfriend was this? Tracking her location, checking up on her, and now barging in for an interrogation? The moment he walked in, he lost control. I can't take it anymore. Your recent movements have been so strange. You linger around malls all day but never buy a single thing. Xiang Tiange sighed helplessly. I was just hanging out with a friend that she's my bestie. But the man shook his head firmly. Impossible that you've never liked shopping and you hate clinging to others. Unless you've fallen for Hanju. Hanju's jaw dropped. We're both women, you're overthinking this. But the man pressed on. Same-sex couples exist. You must be tired of me, that's why you're cheating. His face twisted with pain. So this is what the 7-year itch feels like. If I've done anything wrong, I'll change. Maybe I really am just a worthless man. Hanju was utterly speechless. Then with a loud thud, the man dropped to his knees in front of Xiang Tiange, sobbing. Tiange, please don't leave me. I can't live without you. Xiang Tiange gently patted his head, then shot Hanju a reassuring smile. Don't worry, his emotions swing like this a lot. But he'd never actually hurt anyone. Hanju waved dismissively. I don't mind. I just never imagined, Tiange, that this was the kind of man you liked. Xiang Tiange chuckled. It's not about types. One day I just realized, this person is actually pretty good. Hanju quickly explained, Tiange and I are just ordinary friends. Then she deliberately put on a shy expression. Actually, I was trying to pick out a birthday gift for my boyfriend that I couldn't decide, so I asked Tiange for help. The man's expression softened instantly, his face breaking into a smile. Ah, so that's it. Wonderful, wonderful. I was just overthinking. Of course Tiange wouldn't leave me. Just as Hanju was about to breathe a sigh of relief, he pressed on. Then, what hobbies does your boyfriend have? Hanju blurted. I've already chosen something. Suspicion clouded his face once more. Do you really have a boyfriend, or were you just making that up? At that tense moment, Hanju's assistant entered. President Han, someone's here to deliver your lunch. Hanju seized the chance, grabbing Wan Shun and pulling him into her office. Moments later, the desk was covered with a feast of beautifully prepared dishes. Xiang Tiange's eyes sparkled with envy. Wow, all of this? Your boyfriend made it? The man immediately stiffened, his tone sharp. I can cook too. The unspoken meaning was clear. Stop praising other men. Xiang Tiange, finding the food delicious, offered a bite to her boyfriend that he ate without hesitation and admitted it tasted great. But the next second his body convulsed, his face twisted in pain as he stammered, There's peanut in this. With that he staggered toward the door. Xiang Tiange hissed urgently, "Shut the door. No outsiders can see this." Hanju started to protest. "If he's unwell, we should take him to the hospital." But Wan Shun quickly grabbed her arm. Before her eyes, the man's body shrank rapidly, until his entire frame slipped into his clothes, leaving only his head poking out. Xiang Tiange rushed forward, clutching the bundle of clothing to hide him, but a pair of fallen glasses gave everything away. Hanju's eyes widened in shock. Xiang Tiange's boyfriend was also a mutant like Wan Shun. Only, his ability turned him ridiculously small. She recalled how Wan Shun's transformations always happened when she was around. The wolf, the octopus, the polar bear. Every time so the two decided to live together, treating it as an experiment. What they confirmed was this. Wan Shun's transformations now only lasted a single night. Even counting his earlier tentacle form, his maximum duration was just 1 day. Even Wan Shun himself found it strange. Hanju was puzzled. Shouldn't shorter transformations be a good thing? But the truth was the opposite. His transformations were becoming alarmingly frequent. Just like Xiang Tiange's boyfriend, whose mutation was forever limited to a single trait, shrinking in size. But each of Wan Shun's transformations had been utterly unpredictable. That if Hanju was truly the trigger, then she could be the key to testing it. If he could learn to control the frequency, maybe one day he could live a normal life. Later, Wan Shun lingered in the bathroom, unwilling to come out. He hadn't expected to find himself here, inside Hanju's bathroom. Yet he reminded himself, this was all just part of the experiment. Hanju probably felt nothing real for him. Even so, he would quietly protect her no matter what. As a child, Hanju had once peeked at her father's computer. That was when she learned the institute could track Wan Shun because a chip had been implanted under his skin. If he wanted freedom, the chip had to be removed. It was buried near his ankle. Carefully, she touched the spot and indeed felt something unnatural beneath the skin. "But, how do we get it out?" she whispered. "It'll hurt. Are you afraid? Do you trust me enough to do this?" Wan Shun gave a brilliant smile. "Of course I do. Because you're my only friend, and the woman I'll marry one day." Hanju's cheeks burned crimson. "Then I swear, I'll help you escape." Moments later, her hands shook as she picked up a small knife. Fear filled her chest. What if I cut too deep? What if they discover the wound? Wan Shun clasped her trembling hand, his voice steady. "Don't be afraid that I can fake an illness to dodge inspections. And you're helping me. Go on." Hanju's eyes wavered. Hesitation gripped her. It was her first time doing anything like this. Just the thought of blood made her shiver. But Wan Shun's gaze was unwavering. "I believe in you, so you must believe in me." With Wan Shun's encouragement, Hanju finally made up her mind. But Wan Shun himself dared not dwell on the past. The memories he thought he'd buried resurfaced. So vivid, so suffocating. He told himself he had to let go. His very existence would only bring Hanju endless pain and trouble. Yet when he slid open the bathroom's glass door, his eyes landed on something unexpected. Hanju's cute lingerie hanging there in plain sight. At that exact moment, Hanju suddenly remembered, "Oh no, I forgot to take down my underwear." If Wan Shun saw it, how embarrassing would that be? She quickly knocked on the door. "Wan Shun, are you showering? If not, can I come in and grab my clothes?" Silence. The bathroom was quiet, too quiet. No sound of running water, nothing at all. Pressing her ear against the door, she caught faint, strange noises. Her heart skipped. Could he be transforming again? She pushed the door open in a rush and froze. Wan Shun had shrunk to palm size, curled up awkwardly inside his underwear. She hurried forward, scooping him up carefully into her hands. His face was bright red as he muttered, "No wonder you couldn't hear me. When I shrink, even my voice gets smaller." Then realization hit her. "Wait, you were only wearing underwear when you transformed?" The air turned thick with awkwardness. Sure, at this size some things would need a magnifying glass to notice. But still, they were a man and a woman. And this was far too compromising. But this time, the transformation happened when Hanju wasn't even around. Could it mean the previous ones were just coincidences, and had nothing to do with her? Wan Shun, flushed with embarrassment, couldn't look her in the eye inwardly, though he fumed. Nothing to do with her? Please. It was all because of that lingerie she left hanging in the bathroom. But his tiny voice was too faint for Hanju to hear. He knew clearly. This wasn't part of his usual cycle. It was triggered by outside stimulus. Just Get me a handkerchief or a towel, he muttered. The underwear needs a wash anyway. It smells a bit. He couldn't tell if Hanju truly didn't mind that faint musk. To his shock, Hanju suddenly stripped all the dresses off her dolls, laying out a pile of sparkling princess gowns before him. Picking up a pink frilly dress, she beamed. This one would look adorable on you. Wan Shans was dumbstruck. Seriously? Not even a single men's outfit? At last, Hanju rummaged through a drawer in haste. Her eyes lit up. Here it is. A prince's outfit. She eagerly handed the tiny costume to Wan Shans. Meanwhile, she casually dialed Xiang Tianga, asking, if your boyfriend shrinks, are there any special precautions I should know about? When she turned back, she froze. Dressed in the prince's suit, Wan Shans looked dazzling, like a fairy tale Thumbelina prince come to life. Wan Shans, you look so small, and so cute that I really like it, she said softly. That offhand confession of liking hit Wan Shans like a thunderclap, sending him spiraling into a daze of bliss. The next moment, Hanju bent down and blew a soft puff of air at tiny Wan Shans that he was left baffled, while she giggled with delight. Indeed, having a miniature man was quite entertaining. She rubbed him gently between her fingertips, teasing, right now you can't resist me at all, can you? Maybe I should buy a magnifying glass and study you properly. To her surprise, while searching the gaps, she recovered a ring she had lost years ago. Her eyes sparkled. Wan Shans, you're amazing, just like a little prince from a fairy tale. But in Wan Shans' heart, a shadow lingered. A prince. Princes don't live as wretchedly as I do. We don't even belong to the same world. To him, Hanju only treated him as a curious toy. Her intimacy was just fleeting excitement. When her curiosity faded, she would surely walk away without looking back. Suddenly, Hanju tugged at the hem of his tiny outfit, her eyes glowing. A little prince like you is one of a kind. Let's take some photos. You putting a ring on my finger. Lately, she had been designing a special ring for Xiang Tianga, whose boyfriend could also shrink 1,000-fold. She mused aloud, if there really are many people like you, then there should be rings designed just for them. For example, when you turn into a wolf, your slender fingers become thick. Ordinary rings won't fit anymore. Her voice softened. But for lovers, even small details matter. Transformation shouldn't make someone feel less like the person they love. Wan Shans gazed at her, emotions churning. At last, he sighed softly and gave a quiet nod. Blushing, Hanju whispered, do it like this. The way a prince puts a ring on his princess. In that instant, Wan Shans remembered the promise he once made as a child. I'll come back to marry you. And now, perhaps this moment could serve as a perfect punctuation mark for that long-forgotten vow. With the camera clicking non-stop, he carefully slid the ring onto her finger. Then he lowered his head and pressed a tender kiss upon the band. Soon after, their photos caused a sensation in the industry, even drawing custom orders from people suspected to be other variants. Hanju suggested brightly, why not quit being a host and become a full-time model at my company? But Wan Shans shook his head. My body's unstable. I could transform in the middle of a shoot and frighten everyone. Besides, if word got out that the company used a male host as a brand model, people would laugh. Hanju's gaze softened. Then at least come have dinner at my house tonight. I promised Mom I'd bring you home. But, her tone dipped, my family situation's a little complicated, so I should warn you first. My parents divorced long ago. Mom lives with my stepfather now. He's actually a good man. Just call him uncle. Wan Shans paused in thought, then asked quietly, when did your parents divorce? Hanju didn't quite understand why Wan Shans asked that. She only vaguely remembered her parents divorcing sometime during middle school. Wanting to win her mother's favor, Wan Shans had prepared thoroughly. The moment he entered, he politely greeted her with perfect manners. Then he presented an elegant tea set as a gift for Hanju's stepfather. And of course, he hadn't forgotten her mother's favorite, bird's nest soup. The couple was utterly delighted, their smiles full of approval for this future son-in-law. That night, her mother even arranged a bedroom for the two of them. Wan Shans froze on the spot. Auntie, what does this mean? Her mother explained with a straight face that the house was under renovation and this pink girlish room was the only one left. Hanju instantly saw through her mother's scheme. So desperate to marry me off. Still, the bed was more than big enough. They could easily sleep without bothering each other. Wan Shans offered to take the floor, but Hanju firmly refused. You're a guest. How could I possibly let you sleep on the ground? Besides, he had already done her such a huge favor by pretending to be her boyfriend. Letting him suffer further simply wasn't fair. But Hanju's calm demeanor earlier was nothing but an act. Sharing the same bed with Wan Shans, wasn't that going a little too far? Every day she troubled him to play her fake boyfriend, and now it felt more and more like they were pretending into reality. The thought made her cheeks flush pink. Then out of nowhere, a vivid memory surfaced in her mind. A boy grasping her hand, running desperately. His injured foot gave way and he fell hard onto the ground, guilt tearing through his voice. It's all my fault. You're suffering because of me. Yet she never blamed him. The boy had no ID, no way to stay at an inn, so she smuggled him into her school to hide. Every day she would bring him food and snacks, whispering encouragement. When this blows over, no one will be chasing you anymore. I'll save you, Xiao Shun. Snapping back to reality, Hanju blinked in confusion. Why would I suddenly remember something like that? And stranger still, that boy looked almost exactly like Wan Shans. What on earth was going on? To ease the awkwardness, she decided to sleep on the floor, curled up like a child. Quietly, Wan Shans lifted her up and laid her on the bed. Startled, she jolted awake, blurting out, "What are you doing, you charming little rogue?" But all he did was tuck the blanket around her and lie down by her side, as obedient and protective as a loyal guardian. Hanju quickly buried her head under the blanket, her heart racing uncontrollably. What's wrong with me today? Why do I feel so different these past few days? It must be nothing but sleep deprivation, she convinced herself. After all, falling in love had never been part of her vocabulary. The next morning, Hanju's mother received a call. Someone said they were deeply concerned about Wan Shans' promotional poster and wanted to visit in person. She assumed it was good news. But Wan Shans felt a chill instead. In his life, aside from meeting Hanju, good news had never truly existed. Soon after, the Zhang couple arrived at the Han residence. The moment they stepped inside, Mrs. Zhang blurted out, "Where is that boy? If not for that poster, we would never have known. Our youngest son is still alive." Hanju's mother recalled they had once mentioned a younger son who went missing at the age of 7. Mrs. Zhang had mourned endlessly ever since. Now, with their elder son terminally ill and given no more than 2 years to live, they were desperate, clinging to the hope of a bloodline to carry on. That was why, upon seeing the poster, they had come rushing, almost frantic with excitement. Behind the door, Wan Shans trembled violently. He couldn't tell if what he felt was fear or bitter hatred. Suddenly, a sharp pain split his head apart. He couldn't even be sure if these people were truly his parents. Anxiously, Hanju stepped closer. "Mr. Wan, could it really be true? Did you get lost when you were a child?" Yet the truth was crueler than she could imagine. Wan Shans had been born not as a human infant, but as a small, furry wolf cub. Back then, the nurse had collapsed onto the floor in horror, shrieking, "Mrs. Zhang, you gave birth to a monster." From the moment he was born, Wan Shans had never known a parent's love. He was locked away like a shameful secret, all because of his cursed werewolf blood. One day, he overheard a conversation. His father's company was collapsing, and in that instant he realized he would soon be abandoned. The very next day, his father took him out for the first time, smiling as he said, "Wait here, I'll get you your favorite ice cream." The young Wan Shans nodded obediently. Little did he know, that was the beginning of his nightmare. The sky poured rain until dusk, yet his father never returned. Still, Wan Shans foolishly believed, perhaps the ice cream shop was just far away. Then a van pulled up in front of him. Cold, merciless hands dragged him inside. From that moment on, his childhood was over. More than 10 years had passed and he thought those memories had long been buried. But now, seeing his so-called parents show up weeping at his door, rage and pain split through his skull. Grinding his teeth, he muttered, "I will never go out there." Hanju's face was full of worry. She had never asked about Wan Shans' family, but she knew the Zhang couple held great influence in biomedical research. She hesitated, if there's even a chance. But before she could finish, Wan Shans' eyes locked onto hers, his voice sharp and cold. "I have nothing to do with them." It was the first time Hanju had seen him so stern, so absolute. She froze, unable to find the right words. Hanju suddenly chuckled. "If you don't want to see them, then don't." She clasped Wan Shans' hand tightly. "Come on, we can jump out the first floor window and slip away." Her casual words struck a chord deep within Wan Shun, dragging him back to a long-buried memory. Flames had devoured the research facility back then, yet little Hanju clutched his hand, shouting with all her might, "Don't you dare give up. If they drag you back, everything will be for nothing." She had even screamed, "I'll stall them, run. As long as my father's here, they won't dare touch me." Wan Shun had tried to pull her along, but Hanju had torn away and dashed in the opposite direction. Tears blurred his vision, but he ran, he had to for her sake. The memory bled into the present. Hair sprouted wildly from his arms, snow-white fur racing across his body. With a cry of agony, Wan Shun transformed once more into a wolf. Hanju rushed forward, clutching him in panic. "What do we do now? We have to hide you. If my mom sees, it's all over." And then, knock knock knocked at a chillingly familiar voice called from beyond the door. "Open up, let us see you." It was his biological parents. Heart pounding, Hanju had no time to think. She heaved the wolfish Wan Shun onto her back, and with gritted teeth, leapt straight out the window. Back at the apartment, Hanju was about to relax when she noticed Wan Shun's gaze fixed on her. His voice was low and serious. "Miss Han, I'm sure you've guessed my identity by now." Hanju had always thought of Wan Shun as just a mutant, but to her surprise, he was the son of the Zhang family. Oh, what if she knew? "If I don't help you, no one else will." Helping the Zhang family reconnect with Wan Shun would make business dealings between the Han and Zhang families much easier. But to Hanju, Wan Shun was the priority. After all, she'd already planned to get rid of her fake boyfriend, and if she made Wan Shun angry, her mother's marriage pressure would only get worse. Wan Shun looked disappointed. "Is that really the only reason Hanju is helping me?" Hanju smiled awkwardly. "Well, I guess I have a bit of a selfish reason, but it's hard to admit." Then she suddenly grabbed his hand and pushed him down onto the couch. "I'm worried that after you meet them, you won't have time to see me anymore." With that, she threw herself into his arms and whispered, "If I didn't have you and all this fluff, I'd feel so unsatisfied that oh no, I'm addicted." Wan Shun tried to push Hanju away, but he hesitated, afraid of hurting her. He couldn't deny it. Hanju clearly preferred him in his werewolf form. Hanju, driven by her own desires, refused to let go, clinging to the furry Wan Shun. "It's not every day you turn into a fluffy dog. I'm not letting go that easily." "Mr. Wan, you don't mind me getting close under the guise of sniffing the dog, do you?" She teased lightly. But then a tinge of doubt crossed her mind. "Why am I sneaking around? He's just a contract boyfriend. I should be able to get close to him openly." With that thought, she grabbed a tuft of fur, causing Wan Shun to yelp in pain, his voice a wolf-like howl, a woo. Originally, Hanju thought that Wan Shun signed the contract to be her boyfriend just for the money. But now she realized he was the son of Zhang Pharmaceuticals, so he didn't need the money at all. It seemed the reason for pretending to be her boyfriend wasn't about money. Hanju asked curiously, "After all these years, don't you miss your family?" At her words, Wan Shun's eyes clouded with sorrow. His parents had abandoned him mercilessly all those years ago, and now they came knocking, pretending to feel guilty, only to use him to continue their bloodline. The moment the words left her lips, a blurry memory flashed in Hanju's mind. She remembered a boy telling her when they were younger that he had been sent to the lab by his parents because their business was in trouble. To get the funding, they had to trade their son's mutated body for it. That memory unfolded like a movie scene, gradually appearing in her mind. Wan Shun froze and quickly asked, "What's wrong?" Hanju smiled gently and said, "Maybe I'm just tired that I've had these strange hallucinations before. Sorry, it's all because my body's so troublesome." Hanju patted Wan Shun's furry shoulder, chuckling. "Who are we kidding? We're practically family." "That's some solid revolutionary friendship," she added playfully. "Now don't move, just let me pet you a little longer." Wan Shun quickly grabbed Hanju's wrist, his tone firm. "Don't do that. Even though I look like an animal, I still have human feelings." Hanju's expression dimmed slightly as she lowered her head. "All right, if you're uncomfortable, I won't push, but I really love the fur on your chest." Hearing this, Wan Shun reluctantly smiled and patted her, whispering, "Really? Please don't force yourself." Hanju beamed, teasing him, "Who are we kidding? We're like family." She leaned closer to Wan Shun and gently said, "For lunch, I'm craving barbecue. Could you make it for me?" Wan Shun let go of all his hesitations and admitted to himself, "All right, I do like her." After Hanju and Wan Shun met each other's parents, the next day they returned to their respective work. But Wan Shun's mother was very persistent about recognizing her son. That evening she found Wan Shun's workplace. Wan Shun took a deep breath and asked, "How did you find me here?" Before his mother could respond, Wan Shun raised his hand to stop her, his voice low. "This is not the place for a conversation." Hanju quickly pulled her mother's hand and calmly instructed her colleague, "Prepare a private room. Charge everything to my name." Ah-seong laughed with amusement, silently mocking, "This older woman is about the same age as his mother, and Wan Shun can actually go for that?" Just then Hanju walked into the room and politely said, "Hello, I have an appointment with Mr. Wan." Ah-seong's eyes lit up when he saw Hanju, internally rejoicing. A young, beautiful, rich woman. Wan Shun must have let her slip away. If he doesn't manage his big clients, don't blame me for stepping in. He smiled broadly and greeted her, "Good afternoon, miss. If you're bored while waiting, I can keep you company. No charge, of course." Hanju, already uninterested, replied indifferently, "No need. I'll just sit here and get some work done." Ah-seong wasn't about to give up that easily. With a grin he continued, "That's not how I work. Neglecting a client is bad business. You're so young and pretty, far better than the grandma Shun just took in." Hanju froze at the mention of grandma, and asked, "Grandma, what do you mean by that?" Ah-seong perked up and began to dramatically recount the details of the earlier events, exaggerating for effect, but his tone made it oddly entertaining. "So, you see, I would never neglect a client like you. I'd rather chat with someone like you any day." Hanju sighed and replied, "Then go open a bottle of champagne for me." Just as she finished speaking, Wan Shun sent her a message, "I have something urgent. Wait for me outside for a bit." Hanju glanced at the door of the private room, wondering, what could Wan Shun be doing in there? Is he eating or handling business? Ah-seong eagerly rushed over, holding the champagne, completely oblivious to the fact that Hanju was irritated beyond measure. "Here it is. The champagne is here. Miss, is there anything else you need?" Hanju smiled with a straight face. "Yes, I need you to put the champagne down, then promptly disappear from my sight. Please don't bother me again." Ah-seong instantly felt embarrassed, thinking to himself, "Damn, this woman is making my handsome appearance so awkward." After Ah-seong left, Hanju was left alone to drink in silence, then sat back down on the couch to continue working. But the longer she sat, the more irritable she became. How much longer is this going to take? Unable to resist, she sent Wan Shun a text. An hour passed and still no reply from Wan Shun. Maybe I should just leave him a message and head home to rest. But then she remembered, he told me to wait for him. Hanju stood up abruptly, muttering to herself, No. Why am I listening to him so easily? Why waste my precious time here? I could just reschedule for another time. Why do I have to wait for him? But her mind kept drifting back to the private room. Is Wan Shun being unfaithful to me? Even if he's my fake boyfriend, he should at least respect me, right? Unable to hold back any longer, Hanju opened the private room door. What she saw froze her in place. Wan Shun was comforting a woman. No, wait, that was Aunt Zhang. Even though he's just a fake boyfriend, Aunt Zhang is like half a mother-in-law to me, Hanju thought to herself. Should I go up and greet her? She hesitated for a moment but decided to stay in the corner, pretending she didn't see. Just then Wan Shun finally walked out. To soothe Wan Shun's emotions, Hanju handed him his favorite drink. Wan Shun felt a warmth in his heart. Miss Han actually remembers what I like. Hanju, even more confused, realized that she couldn't remember any of the faces from her many blind dates, but she had remembered what Wan Shun liked to drink. She awkwardly shook her head. Could it be that I'm starting to waver? Gently, she lifted Wan Shun's chin and softly asked, What happened earlier? Wan Shun's eyes filled with tears and he choked up, saying, After talking to my mother, I realized my parents didn't abandon me. It was all just a misunderstanding. Hanju finally sighed in relief. She had already sensed that Aunt Zhang wasn't the type to sell her son for money. She smiled and encouraged him, make the right choice. No matter what difficulties come, I'll always be by your side. Even if you don't want to stay with your parents, it's okay. You can always come back to me. Wan Shun could no longer suppress his guilt and emotion. Hanju's acceptance and care for him, he would be spoiled by her sooner or later. Hanju pulled Wan Shun closer, a playful smile on her face. If I'm bad, then I'm bad. She added softly, but when I'm boring, you won't feel the same. Wan Shun, with a serious look, responded, "You're not boring at all." His hands tightened slightly but with nervous restraint. The words he wanted to say were at the tip of his tongue, but he swallowed them back. That he had once betrayed Hanju. How could he shamelessly confess to her now? Hanju suddenly felt Wan Shun starting to transform. She quickly hugged him tightly and whispered, "It's okay, don't be afraid." Suddenly, a puff of white smoke surrounded them. When Hanju opened her eyes, she was surprised to find a boy holding her from behind. When did a boy appear? Hanju was about to ask Wan Shun who the boy was when she noticed the boy looked exactly like him. Could it be that Wan Shun had transformed into his younger self? Without warning, little Wan Shun ran off, and Hanju quickly jumped up to chase him. Wan Shun was just as confused. He hadn't expected to transform into his younger self. After a short while, Hanju caught up to little Wan Shun. The boy immediately pulled away from her hand and repeatedly said, "Hanju won't like me." Hanju was completely baffled. That wasn't this boy a version of Wan Shun? What is he trying to say? Little Wan Shun desperately shook his head and mumbled, "I'm sorry." But before Hanju could react, Wan Shun stepped forward and knocked little Wan Shun out cold with a quick strike. That he spoke in a low, serious voice. "I couldn't control him. I guess I'll just have to take him back for now." But Hanju couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. There was an unsettling sense in her heart. Back then, when Hanju helped Wan Shun escape the lab, he worried she'd be punished. In the end, he chose to go back alone, leaving her behind with cruel determination. It was only later that he realized the mastermind behind the lab was none other than Hanju's father. From that moment, he resolved to disappear completely. Little Wan Shun woke up, gasping in fear. Seeing Hanju by his side, he froze silent. She gently patted his shoulder, saying, "You're Wan Shun, aren't you?" The boy finally stirred, muttering stubbornly, "I'm not dumb, but you used to hate me. You forgot me, so why are you being so kind now?" Hanju didn't quite understand what he meant, but she could feel he had something buried deep inside. "It's okay," she soothed. "Just say whatever's on your mind little by little." Tears streamed down the boy's face as he stammered, "Xiaoju, we used to." Before he could finish, the door opened. Adult Wan Shun walked in, voice firm, "If you're awake, come eat." They were both Wan Shun, yet the dinner table was thick with tension. Hanju carefully watched them. Every time their eyes met, sparks flew. The adult Wan Shun's gaze stayed locked on his younger self, unreadable. And yet there was something oddly endearing about it, almost as if Wan Shun suddenly had a son. But then a thought struck her. One day when Wan Shun really had a girlfriend, wouldn't their contract as fake lovers end? Her heart skipped a beat. A wave of panic hit her. The fear of losing Wan Shun felt too real, too close. At that moment, both Wan Shun and little Wan Shun simultaneously placed food into Hanju's bowl. Their chopsticks met midair, and their gazes locked once again, causing the atmosphere to suddenly freeze. "You little brat, you don't even know what Hanju likes to eat. She never eats meat," Wan Shun said coldly, his eyes filled with reproach. Little Wan Shun immediately fired back, "Eating meat helps you grow strong. Hanju deserves the best." His tone was firm and resolute. The atmosphere suddenly went quiet. Hanju quickly picked up her bowl and smiled awkwardly. "I'll have both, don't worry. Balanced meals are the best, so we can all be happy." Hanju looked at Wan Shun, hoping he would understand, as this form of splitting was quite rare, and it might disappear as soon as tomorrow or the day after. Wan Shun thought Hanju's words made sense. After all, whenever Hanju was around, the mutation usually ended prematurely. However, little Wan Shun looked visibly upset and asked Hanju, "Can't I stay?" Hanju then realized she had unintentionally hurt little Wan Shun's feelings and quickly pulled her into a hug to comfort her. She hadn't expected little Wan Shun to think so independently. "How about this? To make up for it, why don't you stay with me tonight?" As soon as the words left her mouth, the adult Wan Shun immediately grew wary. That night, little Wan Shun arrived at Hanju's room. Hanju asked her to rest on the bed while she went to wash off her face mask. Just then, Wan Shun barged in, holding a blanket. "I'm sleeping here tonight too, just in case someone tries to sneak in." Hanju was taken aback. "We have so many guest rooms. Why do you have to crowd into mine?" Wan Shun glanced at his younger self and nodded. "That's fine, but he needs his own room." As soon as the words were out, both Wan Shuns couldn't stand each other. "You don't like me, huh? Well, I can't stand you either." Hanju quickly stepped in to stop them. "Aren't you both Wan Shun? How come you're arguing with yourself? But Hanju understood. Little Wan Shun seemed to know something Wan Shun didn't want her to know, and Wan Shun's actions had completely ignited little Wan Shun. Yes, I was afraid I ran away. But what have you done these years? Did you apologize to Xiaozhu? Wan Shun realized this was bad. This brat really can't keep anything to himself. I just didn't want Hanju to remember the past, that's why I didn't want them to be alone. Hanju was utterly confused, unable to understand a word of what the two Wan Shuns were talking about. But Wan Shun definitely had a secret that he grabbed his younger self and started walking outside. However, the next second Hanju dragged both of them back. Enough that if that's the case then let's all sleep together. Hanju was fast asleep on the bed, snoring softly. But both Wan Shuns refused to sleep as they were each keeping an eye on the other. Little Wan Shun snuggled up to Hanju's arm and drifted off to sleep. Although the one beside her was her younger self, Wan Shun felt an uncomfortable ache in his heart and quickly moved closer to Hanju. But after thinking about it, he decided it wasn't worth letting such things affect his mood. Maybe the younger version of himself would disappear tomorrow. This made Wan Shun think of what had happened earlier that day. Yes, I lied to you. That afternoon, Wan Shun's biological parents had found him, and in order to avoid worrying Hanju, he had told him that being abandoned as a child had been a misunderstanding. But the truth was, there was no misunderstanding. Although his mother didn't know, his father had indeed sold him off with his own hands. When his mother found out the truth, the couple had a huge argument. It took them 2 years to discover that their son had been sold to a research institute. His father had long regretted it and decided to do whatever it took to find his son. When they finally located the institute, they found that Wan Shun had already escaped. The couple had been searching for their son for years, never giving up, but it had been more than a decade. His mother didn't expect Wan Shun to forgive her. She only hoped he could live a good life, that if he ever wished to return home, they would spend the rest of their lives making up for the time they lost with him. If they hadn't sold him off, Wan Shun would probably be living the same luxurious life as Hanju now. Wan Shun fell silent upon hearing this. He wanted to stand on equal ground with Hanju. But not like now. The gap between him and Hanju was too vast. He didn't feel worthy to apologize to her, let alone love her. With this thought, Wan Shun couldn't help but kiss Hanju. It was only after seeing his younger self that he regained his composure. His heart raced, realizing how careless he had been, unable to stop himself from kissing her. Luckily, Hanju was already asleep. Wan Shun gently covered her with the blanket and whispered softly in her ear, "I'm sorry." But as soon as she turned to go to sleep, Hanju suddenly opened her eyes. It turned out that both Wan Shuns were hugging her arm, which kept Wan Shun awake from the start. What is going on? Thinking of the scene from earlier, Hanju's face turned bright red with embarrassment. What was Wan Shun doing just now? Why did he kiss me so suddenly and whisper an apology in my ear? Mr. Wan is really bold, with little Wan Shun right there beside him. But when she thought about it, she couldn't help feeling a little happy. Maybe Wan Shun likes her too. The battle for the attention of their boyfriends had begun, and the two of them glared at each other as if they wanted to kill each other. Here they go again, battling for dominance. It's the weekend, and since everyone is at home resting, why not go out and have some fun together? Little Wan Shun immediately became interested. Hanju was a little confused about her own feelings. Mr. Wan seemed to like her, and she liked him too, but she had never been interested in relationships. Maybe she could take little Wan Shun to the amusement park, and use the time to sort out her own emotions. However, compared to Hanju's excitement and Wan Shun's calmness, little Wan Shun was at a loss when he saw the amusement park. What's wrong with him? Isn't a kid supposed to be happy when they see an amusement park? Hanju asked. 541. It's nothing. I was just taken away from outside the amusement park when I was little, little Wan Shun muttered. Hanju finally understood. Is this a mental block? Maybe we should just go somewhere else. Wan Shun immediately bought 3 tickets. What needs to be faced will be faced eventually. Maybe once the mental block is cleared, the younger version of myself will disappear automatically. The attendant smiled broadly. These are your 3 family tickets. Your son looks exactly like you. Wan Shun sighed. Let's just call this a closure for the past. That naive, weak version of Zhang Wan Shun, who only ran away from things, is no longer here. Little Wan Shun suggested wanting to ride the Ferris wheel with Hanju. Hanju chuckled. Are kids really this brave? You actually like riding the Ferris wheel? Little Wan Shans scratched his head awkwardly. I heard that if two people kiss at the very top, they'll never be apart. Wan Shun froze. Is this brat really me when I was little? He quickly pulled Hanju closer, thinking it wasn't such a bad idea. Mr. Wan, you're in such a rush that it's just childish talk. Don't go throwing straight balls with a kid's body, or I might get the wrong idea. Hanju teased. Still, one thing was clear. Every word and action from both Wan Shuns proved that Wan Shun did like her. Even while riding the adrenaline-pumping roller coaster, Hanju kept reflecting on their relationship. Did she really like Wan Shun? She probably did. Moments later, Wan Shun almost threw up last night's dinner, while little Wan Shun and Hanju felt completely refreshed. Hanju finally understood her own feelings. Though she had little experience in love, being with Wan Shun was nothing like all those blind dates before. It was a strange sense of security, as if she had known him for a very long time. There had been times before when she saw visions of little Wan Shun. Clearly, it was impossible for her to have met Wan Shun as a child, so there had to be something wrong here. Just as Wan Shun went out to buy lunch, Hanju decided to take the chance to ask little Wan Shun. Ask whatever you want, I'll tell you everything. How did you know I had something to say? Of course I knew. Every time you wanted to ask something unpleasant, you'd wear that same look, being extra cautious because you didn't want to hurt my feelings. Hanju began to understand. Little Wan Shun must be sharing Wan Shun's memories, and that's why he knew her. Could it be that she had actually met Wan Shun when he was a child? Little Wan Shun looked a bit guilty. Even though the future me really likes you, I don't want to leave a bad impression in front of you. But I still want to tell you. Just promise me you won't be mad. Hearing this, Hanju's face flushed bright red. Ugh, stop it. What do you mean the future you likes shows you too much? You're embarrassing me to death. But fine, I promise. I won't be mad. Let's pinky swear on it. Little Wan Shun was overjoyed. Pinky swearing, I really miss it. We used to do this too, and we promised never to leave each other. But suddenly little Wan Shun's fingers froze. I'm such an idiot that I shouldn't have left you when you were in danger. Instead, I ran away by myself. Hearing this, a flash of memory suddenly appeared in Hanju's mind. When she was a child, her father had pinned her to the ground. Tell me, where did you hide that mutated boy? Despite this, Hanju still refused to reveal Wan Shun's whereabouts.